So the first week of class, I'm walking outside because the class goes in, the library's closing, so they have to go out. And about a dozen of the students who had been in one of the classes were on the stoop outside of the library. And I know it sounds like I'm setting up for some sort of punchline, but it's true. There was a Ukrainian, there was a Russian, there was a Chinese, someone from Tajikistan, someone from Colombia, someone from Honduras, and they were speaking to each other in English. And I just looked at one of my colleagues. I go, where else right now in Jersey City is this happening? Where all these people who normally stay in their own neighborhood, their own church, their own mosque, are here for 2 hours and they're talking to each other. And in some way, we're creating the Jersey City that we want to see.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm tearing up too. We live in such an exciting world, you know, and as teachers, we have this incredible opportunity to bring people together and witness, you know, just how inspiring people are.
Absolutely.
Wow, what a beautiful scene.
People from all over the world gathered to learn together, not to mention learn from one another.
I think I counted 6 countries of origin, 5 or more different languages, all using English as their common language to build connections and community.
And this is a common occurrence in community-based language programs, having such a heterogeneous group of students. I've always said that teaching English means the world comes to my classroom. I feel so lucky.
Me too. And so does today's guest, Eric Trader, who joined us to talk about his work facilitating community-based language programming in Jersey City.
Building community in Jersey City. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome to the Teacher Think Aloud podcast, a podcast for reflective practice for teachers of English around the world. I'm your co-host, Anna.
And I'm Shay.
And this is Eric.
I'm Eric Trader, he, him, his. I am the director of the Learning Center at the Jersey City Free Public Library.
Excellent. And yes, that concision, just beautiful. You didn't try to sneak anything in there. Love it. Okay, all right. So, well, Eric, I heard through the grapevine, Anna's grapevines, that you are a musical fan.
I am.
So tell us, what is your favorite musical of all time? And bonus points to sing us some of it.
Oh my gosh, you would want to take away points if you had me sing anything. I sure. And it really is, it's sort of, I love musicals and novels so much that sort of, it just depends on the time of day and my mood. If you say, which one's your favorite? Which one's your favorite? But if I were going to answer right now, I would say definitely the one I listen to the most and have listened to the most through life is Guys and Dolls. I just like a good old musical comedy with French horns.
Nice.
Like,
yeah, lovely, lovely.
the average unmarried female, basically insecure, Adelaide's Lament, the greatest character song of all time.
Oh my God.
All
Extra
right.
bonus
So no points
points.
removed.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
No points
Yeah.
removed.
It was fun. Yeah, you've got good pitch.
Yeah, gorgeous. You have a beautiful singing voice. I love it.
Clearly, listeners, it was great fun talking with Eric. You can't just ask just anyone to sing without giving them fair warning.
That's true. Such a good sport. Even better than his singing voice, though, is the wealth of knowledge he shared from his experience as the director of a community-based learning center. You actually might remember him, listeners, from our TESOL 2024 episode earlier this year.
Yes. And similar to Eric's initial appearance on the podcast, there are a lot of great takeaways from this conversation. So we'll limit our interruptions today, listeners, and let you bask in Eric's glow.
Let's dive into our content for today. Can you describe the demographic of learners in your community ESL program and some of the challenges that they face?
Oh, sure. So when I took over the program in September, we had 83 students, and now we have close to 800 students.
Wow.
Jersey City, 42.5% of the people living in Jersey City were not born in the United States. So there is a large need and a large desire for community ESL programs, such as what we provide. And in fact, we're the only entity that provides free community ESL. In our current student body, 75% of them are female, and they represent 60 home countries and 30 mother languages.
Wow.
Amazing. That's such a diverse group.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so funny, because a lot of people, the sort of narrative, oh, does it help me if I speak Spanish to become a teacher? I was like, no. I mean, every class, our classes have about 16 people in them, and there will truly be 10 different languages represented among those 16 people. And if there were any language that I needed, I'd say, do you speak Urdu? Do you speak Chinese? Yeah. Do you speak Arabic? These are the languages we really, really have lots of people speaking. The challenges they face related to learning English, was the question about their challenges with the English language itself, or the challenge of getting to class?
Well, actually, I'd be interested in both also. I mean, if you want to touch on both, that's fine.
I'm happy to do that. So what I've learned over the past 8 months, again, going back to that statistic that 75% of the students are women. And I always get choked up when I start talking about this, and I'm going to try not to. But we have had now hundreds of women say that ours is the first classroom they've ever been in, because in their home country, they weren't allowed to go to school. And hundreds of more students we've not been able to serve because of childcare. So the number one challenge we face, and I've been lucky enough I was invited to the City Council to speak in the Board of Education. I said the number one thing that we can do to transform Jersey City over the next 20 years is to provide childcare for women who are taking classes, because we have all the data about when, it sounds so sexist, but culturally, when these mothers are able to read and able to help their kids with homework, those children will perform better in school. And that will change those who have immigrated here recently. That will change the next generation significantly. So I actually have large attitudinal buy-in, but now we're working on the logistics. What does that look like? What are the hours of the daycare? So that was the number one challenge. And then the number two challenge getting to class is, of course, work schedules. As far as learning English, the challenge I was not prepared for at all, and I spoke to a lot of people at TESOL International about this, was teaching ESL to people who are not literate in any language.
Yes.
And that is the case for about 20% of our current students. They're not literate in the first language. So even all the little tricks like, I'm going to Google Translate this, I'm going to have it, they can't read it in their language. So getting them, they're absolute beginners, learning English, and they've never had that thing in their brain that decodes writing. That is an extra challenge. So we're essentially teaching parallel courses, literacy and ESL, to these groups, very imperfectly, may I add.
Yeah, right. You do what you can. And with such a diverse student body and coming from so many linguistic backgrounds, and then the different experiences with formal education, like there are just so many challenges just in one space that you're really...
Absolutely. And the last challenge I would mention is the literacy affects the beginners, and the upper level students, the number one challenge is phonology. And I'll be honest, I think like a lot of teachers, I'm often very uncomfortable talking about pronunciation because I don't want it to become neo-colonial and I'm trying to make you sound like a white person from the Midwest. But when you have literally hundreds of students saying, I know that I'm not getting jobs because I get to the interview and they don't understand me. So then you say, okay, we have to find a way of teaching this in a way that is still sensitive, in a way that absolutely honors the beauty of the way that they're speaking, but to make it intelligible. And I've been using Jennifer Jenkins' framework, English as a Lingua Franca, and have found that to be very helpful in her 2 decades of research. Actually, it's probably more like 3 decades of research now. I love it. She completely excluded native speaker feedback. Like, I don't care what the native speakers say, but she would study what happens between a Chinese business person and a Slovak business person that causes the conversation to break down. And getting that data, she was able to create a sort of phonemic priority of segmentals and supersegmentals and how to teach that with sensitivity. So that's what we're using in the upper levels of our classes.
That's amazing. And I mean, I think that's, it is really hard to walk that line of not wanting to kind of reinforce this idea of sounding like the native speaker or a specific type of native speaker of the language, right? And we can't go into each workplace and train everybody to be better at understanding accented speech. So yeah, you still have to teach pronunciation in some way. So I like this Jennifer Jenkins framework. Thank you for mentioning that, because I think it's a good resource for all of our listeners.
We've linked a few of Jennifer Jenkins' articles in the show notes for you listeners. What he's referring to specifically is her Lingua Franca core framework. What I appreciate most about her work, other than how she really drives home the point that teachers should be focusing on intelligibility over all else, is that her framework allows teachers to prioritize certain aspects of teaching pronunciation, which can feel a bit daunting, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's helpful to be reminded that we can't and honestly shouldn't do it all. We definitely spent some time nerding out on teaching pronunciation after our conversation with Eric, and we hope you'll be inspired to do the same.
Yeah. Well, Eric, let's get into some more specifics here about how you support the learners. There are different levels of learners within your program, of course, but also really different needs. So what are some of the services that your program offers? You mentioned sort of like a dual track happening with literacy and also English. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So we have ESL. We also have adult basic literacy, where our students are mainly people who were born in the States and native speakers of English, but they made it through the Jersey City Public Schools without learning to read at an adult level, level 3. And so our goal is to get them up to that level of functioning. Within the ESL, in and of itself, there are always digital literacy components and work readiness components. But the student feedback on those was so positive that we now offer freestanding courses. So there are 2 levels of the digital literacy. One is literally how to send a text. We're going to help you set up an email. And then the second level is more advanced email, how to use Microsoft Word, and then also how to use things like Zoom, Teams, that sort of thing. As the third component of that, the work readiness is very much focused on helping them get their CV ready, giving them role plays for interviews, and then also getting them onto LinkedIn or whatever professional network they think might be best. And that is followed up by a job fair in the summer with businesses where we think it will be a win-win for them to meet these groups. And then the fourth component is customer service, because we found a lot of the business English books, interestingly, is like, we're going to prepare you to be a manager. And very few of our students want that or even going for that, but they very much want jobs where they're in customer service. And culturally, customer service is very relative. And American customer service is famous/infamous, depending on who you ask. So that's also a 4-week course that we offer, getting them ready for customer service. We have weekly conversation clubs for levels 3, 4, and 5. And as the name suggests, that's very much focused on improving fluency, improving automaticity, and improving intelligible pronunciation. We have citizenship test prep classes. We're very lucky to have a teacher who he actually is a person who administers the citizenship test. And he's an immigration lawyer. So he is a wonderful resource for them the whole way through the process. So those are the main services we offer.
Wow.
so much stuff.
That's a lot. How long have you been in the role, Eric?
8 months.
You are such a busy bee.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, because the feedback from the library board and then the city council and the board of education, like this department has never been recognized before And then they're like, hey, we heard you were doing this thing. Come talk to us. And I've also been given permission to hire 2 more people for the team who are going to be certified ESL teachers. So yeah, it's definitely going in the right direction, though there's still a lot of work to do.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you're filling a lot of gaps in the community. So what's still on your wish list? I mean, you've listed a lot of different opportunities for people to learn and take different paths. So what else is on your wish list right now?
Definitely the biggest problem we have is space. So we're currently serving about 800 students, but we've had 1,700 register. So there's actually the potential to serve another 1,000 students, but we're absolutely maxed out on space everywhere. Interestingly, we have enough teachers. Jersey City is interesting in that regard. There are a lot of retired teachers. There are a lot of people getting their master's or doctorate in TESOL at Rutgers or NYU, and they live in Jersey City. And times being what they are economically, there are a lot of teachers who work during the day who say, I'll work for you in the evening. So that was a big thing I pushed for, that our grant money is used to pay teachers. And I made it so that we pay the most in Jersey City so that it's competitive.
Nice.
Because I think you get you get what you pay for, you know? And so to make sure, hey, I want superstar ESL teachers, so I have to pay them a real wage.
Yes.
So we're able to do that as well. We paid for them to have virtual TESOL International to be able to attend that. And we're looking at sending them to other PDs as well so that it's actually sort of a thing to be a teacher at the Jersey City Free Public Library. So that's my biggest wish list, space. What I've been doing to deal with that is sort of 3 ways. I've been going to places and asking, will you just donate us space? So for example, we have a church and we have a historical mansion. The Barrow Mansion donated their basement to us. So we use that for classes. And then another thing we've done is forming community partnerships. Jersey City, fun fact, has more Coptic Christians than anywhere on earth outside of Egypt. And so there are 2 very large Coptic churches with a 3rd one on the way. So I said, okay, it's clear that there are a lot of people here who need ESL. Can we just have classes in your space? And so that was a great way of getting space and serving people at the same time. We're bringing classes into the housing complexes managed by the Housing Authority because that has a nice mixture of immigrants and or underemployed and unemployed people. And then I'm also trying to create a model where parents learn while their children are learning. So starting in September, the students who go to extra ESL classes after school will be teaching their parents if their parents wish to 2 doors down in 4 of the public schools.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, so smart.
It's just a win-win. And I guess that's maybe the biggest thing I changed from what it had been. Oh, you have to come to us. You have to come this building. I go, no, let's do, a little aerial. Like, I want to be where the people are. Like, I'm going to go where the people are already going.
Yeah.
We just need a teacher and some books and a whiteboard. Like, okay, we'll bring that to that space. And that actually one of our most successful initiatives other than the Coptic Church has been with Head Start. So in 2 Head Starts, while their kids are in school or in classes, we're teaching the parents for 2 hours.
I imagine that really helps with attrition as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So space is on my wish list. And the other big thing on my wish list, and if you or any of your listeners have advice, it seems to me there's a dearth of materials and strategies for dealing with ESL and literacy at the same time. It feels to me a very underaddressed issue in our field. So I would love to hear what anyone in a similar situation is doing, because I'm learning more and more that this isn't just a Jersey City situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully one of our listeners has a great idea for you. I mean, I'm keeping my peepers out there as well. But I love all of these ideas that you've thrown out here, ones that you've already implemented and ones that you are wanting to implement in the future.
It boggles the mind that Eric has accomplished all that he has in just 8 months.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to what a person can accomplish when they're passionate about what they do.
Yes, and when they approach a challenge with an open mind. I think sometimes we limit our own possibilities when we try to recreate something we've seen or we've read about. The first step really is understanding the context that we're operating in.
You're doing such creative problem solving for all of this. And I think that that's kind of an interesting feature of these community-oriented ESL programs, is that it really is a matter of creative problem solving. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about, because we have a lot of our listeners, maybe they haven't worked in a community ESL program, maybe they're abroad, and so community ESL really isn't, in their community, they're working in an EFL situation. Could you tell us a little bit more about what the key differences between working in a community ESL program versus in like a more academic program, like a bridge program, an intensive English program, a university ESL program, a language center?
Anything other than, right?
Yes, anything other than. Yeah. What is it that distinguishes it?
I would say it comes down to three big things. The first is your learning objectives. The objectives tie very much into what they need to survive on a day-to-day basis in the city. And that, of course, doesn't really involve discursive writing. It doesn't involve research. It doesn't involve getting a good band score on IELTS or a Cambridge exam. So as teachers in our program, we just always ask, what do they need to do the minute they walk outside of this classroom door? And then that's what we're going to be teaching. The second major challenge that I think is quite different from any other context, and you alluded to it, Shay, is attrition. Meaning these are people who are either working 2.5 jobs, or they are the person who takes care of the home for 14 people. I mean, and these are real numbers I'm giving you. And so it is very easy to lose heart, to lose motivation. So we talk about that a lot as teachers, where fostering motivation, increasing motivation is a key part of our pedagogy. It's not something extra. It's not a frill. Like, oh, we want to be the fun, cool teacher. We have to be that teacher in order to get them to class.
And there's also just so much of a culture of shame around not being able to perform to your potential. So students who maybe didn't have a chance to do their homework because they were cooking for their families the night before, they may not show up to class. And then if you don't reach out, they're not going to show up to class the next day. They'll just sort of drop off. So it's about building, sort of building out that community within the classroom and saying, like, this is how we function together.
Absolutely. The final distinction that I would make, I'm sure there are more, but we as a teaching team focus on these three, is that when offering feedback to the students, to always focus on intelligibility rather than absolute accuracy. Well, and not just with pronunciation, just, okay, what really is the communicative cost of this particular error? Because that then ties back into motivation and learning objectives. We want to teach them, we want to help them, but we don't want them to feel like, I still don't speak this language. I'm still not good. Yeah. So those have been our three kind of lodestars through the semester, and I'm sure we'll learn more as we go along.
Yeah. That prescriptivism of like, let's just try to sound like accurate in whatever way, shape, or form, it can get really heavy, and that's not the point.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a distinction. I mean, of course, when I was preparing students for IELTS, I'm going to focus on accuracy because it affects their score. And if I'm dealing with pre-service teachers and they're doing their research, we don't want there to be spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes. But I do think a community ESL program needs to be more sensitive about that issue and the balance that needs to be struck.
Absolutely. Well, and it goes back to your first point of differentiation, is that there's, you're focusing on the immediacy, right? The needs that they have. And
so it's pretty apparent from our conversation that there are some key differences between community-based programming and, say, an intensive English program at a university. Just listening to what Eric shared about current offerings tells us a lot about the student body and their needs.
Absolutely. It's clear that he took the time to sift through the community's needs and implement change that addresses this unique learning context.
Let's learn more about what Eric has implemented to ensure the success of his initiatives.
I very much started with carefully designing the curriculums. Teachers are given plug and play lesson plans. So it's like, oh, I'm teaching lesson 1.1. The lesson plan is there, Quizlet is there, Kahoot is there, YouTube video, all of that. I do that not to be prescriptive. They're free to do their own lesson, but after having managed a few programs, I do find that the quality of instruction improves, especially when they're coming from their day job or they're coming from their family. It was like, oh, I have this delicious, nutritious lesson prepared and I'll use 70% of it and I'll use 30% of my stuff and that will be good. And then that made it clear what our goals were as a program. Hiring only qualified, certified teachers. We provide 2 in-house PDs each semester based off topics requested by the teachers. We have chat groups where they exchange ideas with each other. Hey, I'm struggling with this in Unit 1. What are you doing with it? This sort of thing. I would love for it to be in person, but because they are all contractors, that's not quite realistic for us at present. But the chat group I instituted, and I conduct 2 observations of the teachers each semester. One planned, one impromptu. And I ask the teachers, of course, there are things I'm looking for, but I go, what would you like me to be looking for? What kind of feedback would you like to receive? Community partnerships is something that has become a very big deal in what we do, and that ties into also having a much more robust social media presence where we have student highlights, we have teacher highlights, we have highlights when we do the field trips, and that's also something that's been really successful. Field trips, when they're learning a vocabulary about shopping, they go to the mall. When they're learning about ordering food in a restaurant, they go to Starbucks together. And so
experiential learning.
Exactly. And it's very motivating for them. They're consistently saying, this is my favorite part. So doing that, those are the big changes I would say I've had this term.
I'm actually really interested in what you said. Your mention of social media was kind of surprising, but it isn't surprising if you think about it. Just having for building community partnerships, that visibility really is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it works really well. I mean, something I have to repeat a lot because there's this ask in the community very often that, hey, come and give us a 30-minute presentation on the program. And I go, I mean, I can do that, of course. But when it's to, for example, a room full of Coptic Christians who speak no English, I go, so you want me to explain in English what we do? Right. It's not very helpful. So my strategy has been more, let's get great pics or great videos on our library's Instagram page, and then you share that on your mosque's page or on your church's page, or there's a Ukrainian community center. And I'm like, hey, I'm tagging you because we're featuring Svetlana this week. And so then that gets shown in a way that's more intelligible and more exciting than some, middle-aged teacher speaking to them for 30 minutes in a language that they don't understand yet,
That's
so I found social media to be a really great thing. Oh, and tied to that, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, our registration, it used to be entirely in English and students were reporting it took about 2 hours. So I've changed it. It's a QR code. It's basically anywhere where we're promoting the program. And it takes them to a page that will translate to whatever language their Google is in. And I highly recommend this to anyone doing a community ESL program. And now they're saying that the typical registration takes 5 to 10 minutes.
Great feedback.
It's in their language. I mean, ours is a bit more sophisticated because it's with the city government, but anyone can add the Google toggle to the registration, at least where it can flip to the languages. And then there's not a huge barrier scaring away potential students.
Great.
Yes.
Great. It's such an easy thing to do on the side of program management, right? And it makes such a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to ask more about how that works with the students whose literacy level is lower.
Well, it's a challenge, right? Yeah.
So the ones who have a literacy challenge as well, on a sort of fast solution, like boom, get it done, very often it's a family member who's helping them. But this is also where community partnerships come in again. So when we identify that, okay, these students are struggling at the Coptic church, I ask the father, can we have some volunteers help us with the registration? And so the ones who can't even read in Arabic, this volunteer will help them and take them through it. So we've done that with that group. We've done it with the Ukrainian Jersey City group. So when they're registering, they're able to do this. And with the Urdu-speaking community, which of course comes from several countries, there is Church World Service and another agency focusing on refugees mainly. And they have volunteers who speak languages. So we sort of organize a day. And then we have that volunteer help us through that process with the people who are struggling with literacy.
Well, and in that way, it really is recruiting so many different community stakeholders.
Absolutely. And then those people know about us now and know the service that we offer. So everyone coming in, they go, oh, you need English. Here's the QR code.
You're modeling so many best practices for this, and it's so many ideas I think that a lot of community ESL program leaders can really benefit from. So to wrap us up, let's talk about some advice for other leaders of these kinds of programs, better to support their learners and also just stay afloat as a program.
I know this sounds like a broken record, but absolutely community partnerships. I think that has been the secret to the success that we've had. And tied into that, don't be afraid to ask for help. Teachers, we tend to skew towards the masochistic and martyrdom, and I have to solve all of this by myself, where so many doors have opened to me when I have said to people in the community, I don't know how to do this particular thing. Can you help me? So that would be the number one overriding piece of advice I would give, although I don't love giving advice. The second thing I would say is huge, and I've noticed other people not doing it to the extent I think it should be done. Needs analysis, needs analysis, needs analysis. And needs analysis, when you're dealing with adults, is also wants analysis. Do they want it? It doesn't matter that you think they need it. They have to think they need it.
Yes.
And they have to want it. And sometimes you get them to the thing they need by giving them the thing they want. So those would be the two big things that I would say.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, Eric, you're making me want to go back to working in community ESL programs. That's how I got my start actually working with refugee community in Rhode Island. And I actually directed programs. And so everything that you've talked about today, I was like, oh, I should have thought of that. Or I wish I had the resources for that. Maybe one day I'll come back to that realm. But, the idea that people don't necessarily conduct needs analyses, that is so spot on, and I think that part of it is just they want to be able to use whatever workbooks that have been handed to them from the former director or from the library, and we know that they're those sort of ready-made things are not right for this population, right? Almost never.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost never. Well, when I walked into the program that I kind of inherited, it was just so amazing to me how many things they knew were needs, but they were calling them problems.
Just that framing.
Meaning,
like, come on.
Yeah. Well, there's this problem. They can't get to the main library. Okay, well, there's an opportunity. Let's bring the classes to other places. We have 10 branches of the library. We have churches. We have synagogues. We have mosques. And then it was reported to me, oh, yeah, a lot of people say they want the class, but they don't bother filling out the forms. I go, okay, do we know why they didn't fill out the forms? And then some investigation as I go, yeah, this form would take me 30 minutes. It is taking someone who doesn't speak English 2 hours. So let's change the form. And so all of those sorts of things, what hasn't worked in the past, and seeing that as an opportunity to better serve.
And the name of the game is accessibility when it comes to community programming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice one, Shay. I'm with you.
Thanks. Well, with community programs, the saying, if you build it, they will come, it doesn't necessarily apply, right? You've got to reach the people that you're trying to serve.
Absolutely. I love that word, serve. It's come up so many times in this conversation. It's about serving the community.
And it's not always easy, but it's always worth it. I mean, I think so anyway.
Yeah. Listeners, what about you? We'd love to hear about your experience. What challenges have you encountered teaching in community-based language programs?
You can connect with us via social media or email us at teacherthinkaloud@gmail.com.
Please do. And oh, by the way, we are taking our usual summer break to relax and rejuvenate. So this is our last episode for now. We'll be back with more episodes in September, though.
Yes. So in the meantime, some homework. Subscribe to our newsletter, check out our episode archive, and share your favorites with your favorite teaching friend.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Teacher Think Aloud podcast. And until next time, happy teaching.
And happy reflecting.